Hello. Good to see everybody. How y'all doing today? My name's TJ. I'm the program coordinator here at the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory, and I'm very excited to kick off the series that we're starting today in conjunction with the Palm Springs Opera Guild. We've done this sort of introduction to opera series now for a few years, and it's been really popular, and we always change it up a little bit in terms of the content that's covered, but for someone like me who was not particularly familiar with opera when I started in my position here with the library, it's been a really unique opportunity to learn more about opera and then to appreciate it that much more when we have our performances as well. So really glad to see you all, and hopefully we'll see you the next couple of months as well. If you didn't know, you can pick up one of our program guides in the back of the room, which has all of our programming for December, January, and February, so make sure you get one of those. Also, if you haven't signed up for our emails, that's another great way to stay up to date on what's going on. You can do that right on our homepage of our website. So I also want to take a moment to thank the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory Foundation for the support that they provide, and all of those who donate to the foundation to help make programs like today's possible. And in particular, today, I'd like to thank Mr. Jay Bartosh and the Jay Bartosh Performing Arts Fund. So help me thank Jay, because this wouldn't happen without him. Also, just a quick reminder, make sure if you have a cell phone with you, you have that turned off. It doesn't go off during the performance. And then just to let everyone know, we've got great programming coming up just in the next few days and weeks. So tomorrow we have Delia Efron here at 2 p.m. Make sure you get her early. We're expecting a large crowd. It is one of our premier programs, so if you're a Rancho Mirage resident, you'll have priority seating. And then on Thursday afternoon, we have the Jocelyn Singers, which will be here. And then next week, we've got a lot more great programs, including next Wednesday evening, the Rancho Mirage Cultural Commission, which will present Natalie Mann and Bruce Mangum. Natalie's actually a classically trained soprano, and she'll be singing some opera, but focusing on the holidays. So it should be a really great program, so hopefully we'll see a lot of you then. It's next Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. But with that, I want to go ahead and introduce the President and Executive Director at the Palm Springs Opera Guild of the Desert, Ms. Lori Baldwin.
Thank you, TJ, and thank you to the Rancho Mirage Library and Observatory for hosting us today. So raise your hand if you even know about the Palm Springs Opera Guild. Not too bad, not too bad. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit here in the desert. We actually serve all 9 cities, and I would like to personally invite you to become a member. All you have to do is go to our website, which is palmspringsoperaguild.org. So I have the duty today as the executive director to introduce your lecturer for today. Kip Cranna is an emeritus dramaturg from the San Francisco Opera. He has his BA from the University of South Dakota. Is that right? North Dakota in choral conducting, and he has his doctorate. He's very important from the University of Samford University. So, with no further ado, please help me welcome Dr. Clifford Kip Cranna.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you to the Opera Guild. Thank you, Jay, for making all this possible. And thanks to the Rancho Mirage Library and the wonderful facilities they have here. I do a lot of lecturing like this, and this is the best facility I've ever been in for this kind of thing. So I'm glad to be here. Great to be back. This is a series that we started 3 years ago, I think it was, called Who's Afraid of Opera? And I've talked here about a number of topics. And it's great to be back finally in person indoors. This is the first time since before the pandemic that we've had this opportunity to gather inside in person. So it's great to be back. And my topic, as you can see, is Yuletide operas. 'Tis the season at the opera. And we'll plunge right in. I think this is going to take about 70 minutes or so, an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. And if you have questions for me or comments, there'll be time when all that's over. So as I say, this is part of the ongoing series, and I love the graphics that they've come up with here of Who's Afraid of Opera. So normally when we think of Christmas music or music for the Yuletide season, we think of choral music, and especially we think of Handel's Messiah. I'm sure there's a performance going on somewhere in this area this month, or maybe it's already happened. Actually, when I think about music for the Yuletide season, I tend to think of Renaissance choral music, which is just because I'm sort of weird that way. And I like this sort of thing. This is my favorite choral group, Chanticleer, which is based in San Francisco, but this is performed in Chicago. Here's a little about 60 seconds of a little Renaissance Christmas music. So all kinds of different music can get us in the holiday spirit. We don't normally think of opera in that context. There is a lot of music in the classical world that tells the Christmas story, and I found this image that pretty much has it all there. We've got, of course, Mary and Joseph and the baby Jesus and the ox and the ass there. We've got the angel and the shepherd, and we've got the wise men. So there are various operatic or musical, classical music tellings of the story, and these are some of the main ones that I could think of. That is to say, oratorios and cantatas. These are concert pieces rather than things that are meant to be staged. There's Schütz, the Christmas story, Bach, his famous Christmas oratorio, which is really a collection of cantatas. Messiah, we've mentioned, Berlioz' The Childhood of Christ, Respighi's Laud at the Nativity, and Britten's Ceremony of Carols are just a few of the sort of classical holiday pieces meant to be performed in concert. But what about operas? Well, the two that come to mind first are, one of the reasons is the Children's Prayer, which has a kind of a holiday feeling about it. You know the story. They get lost in the woods and they say their prayers before going to sleep. The role of Hansel is a trouser role in this. It's meant to be sung by a woman. Anyway, here's a little bit of the Children's Prayer from Hansel and Gretel. Maybe it could be a little louder, Stephen. Right? The tune goes on. And then, of course, they fall asleep, and brother and sister bed down for the night, and the ballet ensues, and it's normally a ballet about these 14 angels, but there are various other ways that choreographers will interpret it. In the most recent performances we did at San Francisco Opera in 2019, it was kind of like a phantasmagoria of Disney characters. So as you'll see in this little clip, Prince Charming is trying to put the glass slipper on Little Red Riding Hood, and then on Snow White, and then on the wolf, and then finally on Cinderella. And you see the kids are sleeping down in the lower left there. So a little fun with fairy tale characters there. The other sort of iconic moment is the witch's ride, which is meant to be the witch, of course, riding on her broomstick. In our previous production, before the one that you just saw, the witch was kind of like a nightmare version of Julia Child, cooking up a storm in her kitchen, getting ready to roast these kids. And the role of the witch is often done in drag, as it is here. Here's a little bit of the witch's ride.
The back takes wing, the hellcat sings, the death bell rings. My tongue's on heat to taste the sweet and melting treat of children's meat. With 5 and 6, the witch will mix. With 7 and 8, you lick your plate. And 9 is 1, and 10 is none. So much is nil by witch's will. She'll ride until the night is through.
So for reasons that are kind of hard to explain, Hansel and Gretel is often thought of as a Christmas piece. It's done at Christmas fairly often. The other piece that I mentioned that for very obvious reasons is associated with Christmas is Giancarlo Menotti's Amal and the Night Visitors, which was written for TV. It's one of the very first operas specifically meant to be performed on television. And of course, it's about this young boy who is disabled. He and his widowed mother are very poor, and they have the surprise visit of the 3 wise men as they stop over on their way to visit the baby Jesus. And it's interesting that the legend about the 3 wise men, we get the story of the 3 wise men from the book of Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew. He's the only one who talks about it in the Bible. And he doesn't say that there were 3 of them, and he doesn't say that they were kings. He just says that they were wise men from the east. But in the Middle Ages, legends grew up about this, as you see in this Mantegna painting here. So they got names, and it was decided that they were kings. So in tradition, there's Melchior, king of Arabia. This is him here. And then we have Caspar, king of Tarsus, and Balthazar from Ethiopia, who is traditionally considered to be a black man. And so here's one of my favorite scenes from Amal and the Night Visitors, where Amal's mother is really exasperated with him because he tends to tell tall tales and make up fantastical stories, and it tries her patience, so she's not very happy when he tries to tell her that there are kings at the door.
Mother, outside the door, there is a king with a crown. What shall I do? What shall I do? If you don't learn to tell the truth, I'll have to spank you. Go back and see who it is and ask them what they want. Mother, come with me. I want to be sure that you see what I see. What is the matter with you now? What is all this fuss about? Mother, I boy. There is not a king outside. I should say not. There are two kings. What shall I do with this boy? What shall I do? What shall I do? Hurry back and see who it is, and don't you dare make up tales. Mother, come with me. If I tell you the truth, I know you won't believe me. Try it for a change. But you won't believe me. I'll believe you if you tell me the truth. Sure enough, there are not two kings outside. That is surprising. The kings are three, and one of them is black. Oh, what shall I do with this boy? If you were stronger, I'd like to whip you. I knew it. I'm going to the door myself, and then, young man, you'll have to reckon with me. What did I tell you? Shh.
Rest a while in your house and warm ourselves by your fireplace.
I am a poor widow, a cold fireplace and a bed of straw is all I have to offer you. To these you are welcome.
What did she say?
That we are welcome.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
This whole performance is on YouTube. It's a free source, and it has quite a starry cast. If you know anything about opera singers, these are top-of-the-line artists. I'll play you one other scene, a favorite one. This is the Christmas miracle. During the night, the mother's so desperate, she doesn't know where their next meal is coming from, so she tries to steal some of the gold from the kings, and he's caught by their page. She's caught, but the kings decide to forgive her and let her keep the gold, and they say they're on their way to visit this miraculous child, and we have a Christmas miracle.
Let us leave, my friends.
Oh, no, wait. Take back your gold. For such a king I've waited all my life. And if I weren't so poor, I would send a gift of my own to such a child. But, Mother, let me send him my crutch. Who knows? He may need one, and this I made myself. But you can't. I walk, Mother. I walk, Mother.
He walks.
Of course, it's decided that this child who's experienced this miracle should accompany the wise men on their way. So at the end, opera ends with Mother bidding farewell to them all. Menotti was often criticized for his shameless tugging at our heartstrings, but after all, isn't that what opera's supposed to do? So I'll forgive Menotti for toying with our emotions in this piece, which is very popular and justifiably so. But what about other Christmas operas? I'm going to go through a bunch that you probably have not heard of, and some of them I hadn't until I started digging into this interesting topic. Let's talk about Nikolai Rimsky-Korsakov and his opera called Christmas Eve. I don't know how to say that in Russian, but let's just stick to it in English from 1895, based on a Golgov story. So this is a quick synopsis. On Christmas Eve in a Ukrainian village, the attractive widow and sorceress Soloka is being courted by several suitors, including the devil. Meanwhile, her son Vakula loves Oksana. Playing hard to get, Oksana gives Vakula the near impossible task of traveling to St. Petersburg to obtain a pair of the Tsarina's slippers. As Soluka's suitors arrive for an assignation, each is hidden in a sack when the next arrives. The temptress's son Vakula comes home to find a row of sacks at his mother's house. When he discovers that the last sack contains the devil, Vakula forces the demon to fly him to St. Petersburg, where, after much dancing and singing, it's a Russian opera, the Tsarina duly gives him a pair of slippers. On returning home with them on Christmas Day to present them to Oksana as she demanded, Vakula discovers that she has loved him all along. Here is a trailer from the Mariinsky Theater in St. Petersburg. So why haven't I heard of this opera, you're wondering? And the only explanation I can give is probably that it's just monumentally expensive to produce. Large cast, you need a big chorus and a ton of dancers, and you're going to spend a fortune on costumes. So that may be the reason, but it's good to know about anyways. And then there's O. Henry's short story, The Gift of the Magi, which has become a very successful opera. You probably know this story. If you haven't read it, be sure to do it sometime during the holiday season. It's only about 8 or 10 pages long. And it ends with these words: each sold the most valuable thing he owned in order to buy a gift for the other. But let me speak a last word to the wise of these, days. Of all who give and receive gifts, such as they are the most wise. Everyone, they are the wise ones. They are the Magi. And the opera is by David Conte, who teaches at the San Francisco Conservatory of Music, with a libretto by Nicholas Giardini. And here's our story. The Gift of the Magi is the story of Jim and Della, a penniless young couple on Christmas Eve. Though they can't afford to buy gifts, each secretly makes a sacrifice for the other. She sells her long, lustrous hair in order to buy him a gold chain for his cherished old gold pocket watch. But he, meanwhile, pawns the watch to buy expensive ornate combs for her hair. Their misguided mutual sacrifices give them a profound new understanding of the depth of their devotion and the true meaning of love. It's a wonderful story for Christmas, and David's opera has been quite successful. It's been had more than 30 productions. Here I am interviewing him about this piece. This is just a little bit of the interview. And where did you get the idea for this subject for an opera?
Well, you know, after I finished my first opera, I was in a kind of postpartum depression, which happens after a major effort, The Dreamers for Sonoma, which, of course, you were very involved in, Kip.
I remember it well.
I was just sitting in my living room, and suddenly a bolt from the blue came. I literally kind of saw the words on the wall in front of me. I cannot explain why. I hadn't read the story since I was in high school, but I thought, well, this is going to be my next project, my next opera project.
You've got the three magi make their appearance in a way off stage in your conception, right?
Yes, we've said off stage, but I've seen productions where they've done it, you know, from a balcony or behind a scrim, you know, in some way to suggest, you know, a kind of otherworldly presence. Well, you know, I designed it to be done on a double bill with the mall because the orchestra is almost identical. I always say Menotti has 2 oboes because it's a country piece, and I have 2 clarinets because mine's a city piece. I have seen it maybe a half a dozen times as a double bill with them all.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about your decision to expand the reaction of the couple after they discover their misguided gift giving. O. Henry's story kind of drops right there, where I think Jim says, let's put our gifts away for a while. You've created a love duet there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, of course, you know, I always say the unsung heroes of opera are librettists. So that was the librettist gave me that structure when they exchanged their gifts, and they, you know, kind of mirrors are shattering, hearts are breaking as they realize that their gifts are worthless in a practical sense, but then they realize that they've been motivated by, you know, the sense of sacrifice and giving and showing love to the other. And then that's the true message of giving and of love and of the spirit of Christmas.
All right, let's listen to that love duet. And as it mentioned there as David mentioned in his interview, he interpolates not only this love duet after they've discovered this mistake they've made in gift giving, but we hear the 3 wise men off stage. is sort of an ideal companion piece to go with All the Night Visitors on a casting basis, because Della could be the mother, and is it? I've already forgotten his name. The husband can be the page, and you've got the three kings. So all you need is Amal to fill out the other piece. Let's talk about John Adams' El Nino, which the Metropolitan Opera is going to stage next year. It was designed sort of as an oratorio. John calls it a nativity oratorio, but it is sort of meant to be staged anyway, in a sort of a semi-staged concert version. Here's John talking about this.
I always wanted to write my own Messiah. I never sang in a chorus, but I heard local amateur performances at Christmas time since I was a kid, and I always loved not just Handel's music and those biblical quotes, but the story itself, which is a story of hope and birth. I was asked to write something to celebrate the millennium in the year 2000. I got a commission from the Châtelet Theater, and I thought maybe this is the chance, and furthermore, the year 2000 seemed like an appropriate date to write a Messiah-type piece. So El Nino came into being. I didn't know what the title would be at the start, but I went to my long-term friend Peter Sellers and said, why don't we put together a libretto? And Peter, as always, has a radical idea. It takes something that's based on sort of tradition, like an oratorio, but then invest a radical idea. And this radical idea was really a wonderful one. It was really to tell the story from the point of view of the women. Not all of the texts are by women. There is a part of a sermon by Martin Luther that I found, which I think is very beautiful, sort of about Joseph and Mary not being able to find a place to stay. She's 9 months pregnant. And, just the roughness, the toughness, the difficulty of life, being poor and having to leave home to go do some stupid bureaucratic thing that Caesar Augustus decided had to be done. We have Hispanic texts by women from Mexico and Chile, and we have a little section from one of the Wakefield mystery plays, and then some terrifying choruses when Herod finds out that this baby has been born and is going to challenge his authority, that come from Isaiah. So it's a wonderful mix of poetry and contemporary, very up-to-date texts as well.
Peter staged this with a lot of video in mind, and as you'll see, he sort of has the idea that Mary and Joseph are sort of huddled around a fire on a beach, and they're befriended by police. Here are some excerpts from this with the wonderful Lorraine Hunt, who died way too young of cancer, a wonderful, incredibly charismatic singer. This was filmed at the Châtelet Paris Theater in Paris. Wonderful singing by Lorraine Hunt. We miss her still. In the Christmas story, we get this, as John Adams mentioned, this bit from Matthew about how Herod tells the wise men, well, if you find this kid, let me know and I'll go worship him too. But of course, that isn't his plan at all. And here's a little bit of that being carried out here with Willard White as King Herod.
Go and search diligently for the young child. Go and search diligently for the young child. And when you have found him, bring me word again, that I may come and worship, Bring me word again, that I may come and worship, and worship him. So unto them, let's sing to high, let's sing to high. Go unto them, let's sing. Go unto them, let's sing to high, and answer from the Lord, from the Lord, from the Lord. Go unto them,
The New York Times, in its summary of best classical music during the year 2022, ventured the opinion that John Adams is our greatest living composer in America. I don't know what John would say about that. He's a modest guy. I won't ask him. Let's go to Silent Night, Pulitzer Prize winning opera by Kevin Putz. And it is telling the same story that was told in this wonderful film from 2005, Joyeux Noël, French film, about the famous Christmas Eve truce. The librettist is Mark Campbell, who's sort of the go-to librettist these days in America. He's worked with many composers and is highly acclaimed. The story is true. The Christmas truce that happened in 1914 during World War I. British and German troops that we see here meet in no man's land on Christmas Day in 1914. Here is a little bit of an introduction about this opera from the Wexford Festival, where one of the many places it's been performed. It was done not too long ago at San Jose Opera as well.
I think it's an incredible, unforgettable experience. This is an opera that is absolutely stunning, both in terms of the story and the music. The story, which takes place in World War I, is the very famous truce between the Scottish and the Germans and the French, where those people that fought each other so violently are coming together, celebrating Christmas, playing soccer, smoking cigarettes, having some brandy, and eating chocolate. And it's a very, very moving story. So on top of that story, you have this incredible music by Kevin Putz.
And here's Kevin talking about it himself.
When I first met Mark Campbell and we talked about the opera over a bottle of wine, he felt strongly that the opera should be in 3 languages, in French, German, and English. He was imagining a scene where all of the armies are singing in 3 languages at the same time about being home. And I pretty much just lost it right there in the restaurant. I would say it was an enormous privilege to write Silent Night and to make a statement through it, which I've always believed, that it is distance and a lack of familiarity with one another which leads us to the atrocities of war, that once you see your sworn enemy is not so different from yourself, the whole thing falls apart.
If you follow the world of opera, you may know that the Metropolitan Opera has just finished performing Kevin Putz's opera, The Hours, which is still being shown in cinema. You still have a chance to see it if you have one of those places nearby. Here is a little more of this sleep chorus where all the soldiers, no matter what side of the fight they're on, are dreaming about being home. This is the climactic scene of the opera. Bill Burden here is a German opera singer who's been drafted to be a soldier, and they've had a command performance, so his girlfriend is there. He sings a German Christmas carol in German, well-known tune, I suppose, if you are used to German Christmases. And a Scottish bagpiper across the enemy line joins in with the tune. He follows the tune and joins in. And then a French soldier eavesdropping comments on them both, and the ice is broken, and the Christmas truce is born.
Wer hat Lust auf echten Gesang? Hab Freude im Herzen, o Christenheit.
Oh, épuisé maintenant.
Für diese glorreiche Zeit.
Je ne sais pas ce qui est dit. Le prix du château, les gorges d'arrose biflantes. De cette langue noble. McDonough, und Metzger, come on, Madame Frey.
Im Herzen, o Christenheit. Hab Freude im Herzen,
Was machen Sie da? Sind Sie beruht geworden? Kommen Sie herunter!
Oh,
Dieu, mes pauvres filles!
Kind ahoi und das Stroh, Maria und Josef betrachten es froh. Überall herrscht Friedigkeit, hab Freude im Herzen, o Christenheit. Dormi, Jesu, Mater ride, quetam dulcem somnum vide. Dormi,
ich befehle Ihnen, darüber zu kommen.
Jesu, blandule.
Concentration!
Dormi, Jesu, Mater ridet,
What are you doing?
dulcem
Get down from there!
somnum videt, dormi, Jesu, blandule. Good evening to the English.
Sprich nicht mit ihnen! Good evening to the German. But we are not English, sir. We are Scottish.
And we would rather die than sing in German. No, it would probably kill me first if you sang in German.
All right. A very apropos opera for the Christmas season. All right, let's go to Mark Adamo's Becoming Santa Claus. I bet this is one you didn't know about. The petulant Prince Claus is expecting his three uncles, the wise men, who knew that Santa Claus was the nephew of the three wise men, at his 13th birthday party. But instead, they send gifts and regrets, saying that they must follow a wondrous star to the crib of a newborn baby. The stung teenager Claus recruits his four hapless elves to make the most spectacular toys ever created to dazzle the child and outdo his uncles. But his sorceress mother refuses to help, so they arrive at the manger too late. The Holy Family has left for home. What is the young Claus to do with his sleigh full of fantastic toys? Here is a trailer about this opera from Dallas. And here's Mark talking about this piece, which is available, as you can see here, on a commercial DVD.
My name is Mark Adamo, and the opera is Becoming Santa Claus. Becoming Santa Claus starts with the premise that Prince Claus, an elf prince, was the original what-did-you-get-me Christmas brat, and the opera imagines why he might be that and how he might have transformed into the angel of generosity we like to think he is today. So it's a secular nativity story with elves. I was actually watching a rehearsal of Hansel and Gretel, which is done often at the holidays, and I thought, surely we can do a little better than this. Surely we can write an opera that works the way the Nutcracker works. That is to say, it introduces people at the holidays to the idea of ballet. So I wanted a piece that could do something similar for audiences new to opera, but also be interesting enough about the problem of Christmas that you would want to produce it in July. Growing up, the phrase, Christmas is coming, filled me with dread. Joy, too, but still dread. It's the season of love and family, so max out your credit card. And I thought that if you could write a piece that was about, or the question of whether we give gifts to express love when we feel it or to feign it when we don't, I thought that would be a thrilling idea for an opera, and particularly one to be produced around the holidays. You can purchase the DVD of Becoming Santa Claus at cdbaby.com.
Shameless commercial there. Again, this is another piece that is expensive to produce, as you could tell. Kind of like, as he mentioned, a Nutcracker. Let's talk about Ricky Ian Gordon. He is best known for his opera based on the Steinbeck novel Grapes of Wrath, which is very successful, premiered in Minnesota. But he wrote an opera called The House Without a Christmas Tree, with libretto by Royce Favreck, who is another very accomplished American librettist. Here's our story. The young girl Addie longs for a Christmas tree, but her widowed, melancholy father cannot bear having one because it would remind him of his deceased wife, who died during the holidays shortly after giving birth to Addie. When Addie wins a tree in a school giveaway, her father angrily forbids her to keep it. Addie then anonymously donates it to a poor family down the street. Moved by his daughter's spirit and generosity, her father buys a tree and reconciles with the delighted Addie. Here is Addie. This is a role, I should say. The role of Addie is meant to be sung by an adult, but portraying a young girl. Here she is with her aria.
Won't you please buy me a tree, or we can chop one down? It doesn't have to be the biggest one or the greenest one. It could be the most miniature tree, a tree you need binoculars to see, with one or two little branches and all its needles fallen off. That's all I need. I'll cover it with homemade tinsel and popcorn garland. This house could look like Christmas. This house could feel like Christmas. A house without a Christmas tree is a crime against the holidays, is a crime against humanity, is a crime against me. Won't you please buy me a tree? How many Christmases must I beg? It doesn't have to be the perfect one. It doesn't have to be a healthy one. Any tree is fine. It just has to be mine. This house could look like Christmas. This house could feel like Christmas. Dad, I implore you, won't you please buy me a tree, Daddy?
This is one of a number of Christmas operas that Patrick Summers, who's a friend of mine who used to be with us at San Francisco Opera's music director of Houston Grand Opera. He commissioned a number of Christmas operas there, thinking that that's a little area in the repertoire that needs filling in, and he's done a good job with that. Here's a scene, very touching, where our widowed father imagines his scene where, before his wife died, they were decorating the Christmas tree.
Promise me that we'll dance around our Christmas tree every year. Promise me, while the fire roars its wintry melody. We will be, promise me, waltzing here, while the ornaments shimmer. Snow will fall as the malt cider simmers. You and me, endlessly, promise me.
you.
You love me.
Every year
I'll be here. Promise me. Promise me.
Getting a little sentimental here at Christmas time. All right, now let's talk about another one of the Houston commissions for Christmas, which was co-commissioned with San Francisco Opera. Jake Heggie and Jean Shear's It's a Wonderful Life, which has just been performed at the English National Opera in London to great acclaim. And amidst the terrible troubles they're having there, they're being told by the Arts Council that they have to move out of London, which is very sad. But they had a big success with this American opera about Christmas. It's based, of course, on the film, which I'm sure you all know, the 1946 Frank Capra movie, which was in turn was based on a short story called The Greatest Gift by Philip Van Doren Stern. And here's a quick synopsis of the film, just to remind you. It stars James Stewart as George Bailey, a man who has given up his dreams in order to help others, and whose imminent suicide on Christmas Eve brings about the intervention of his guardian angel, Clarence, played by Henry Travers. Clarence shows George all of the people he has touched, including his wife, Mary, played by Donna Reed, and how different life in his community of Bedford Falls, New York, would have been if he had never been born. Here's the trailer from the movie that'll bring this all back to you, I'm sure.
I suppose it'd been better if I'd never been born at all.
What'd you say?
I said I wish I'd never been born.
You've got your wish. You've never been born. A chance to see what the world would be like without you.
Now, you're Ernie Bishop, and you live in Bailey Park with your wife and kid. That's right, isn't it?
I live in a shack in Potter's Field, and I ain't never seen you before in my life.
I'm going home and see my wife and family.
This house ain't been lived in for 20 years.
Your brother, Harry Bailey, broke through the ice and was drowned at the age of 9. You weren't there to save Harry. Strange, isn't it? Each man's life touches so many other lives. You really had a wonderful life. Don't you see what a mistake it would be to throw it away?
Get me back! I don't care what happens to me. I want to live again.
Merry Christmas! Happy New Year to you!
You want the moon? Just say the word and I'll throw a lasso around it and pull it down.
Okay, so how would you make an opera out of that? Here's a quick synopsis. George is suicidal because of financial woes and is about to jump from a bridge on Christmas Eve. The angels stop time and send Clara, not Clarence, angel second class, to Earth. She will walk with George from childhood to this precarious moment on the bridge, looking at what the world would have been like if he had never been born. She will see how one life can make a difference to a community and to the world, and she and George will learn what makes a wonderful life and that no one is a failure who has friends. Here is a scene from the opera with the angels seeing George, and there's Clara up there. She doesn't have her wings yet, but she is about to get them as they try to rescue George. Here's Jake talking a little bit how the opera differs from the movie.
The things that is the same is the central journey of George Bailey, a man who has been born and raised in this small town of Bedford Falls, New York, and the people that he has interacted with over his life, and then a crisis point that happens for him where he feels like, I've worked so hard to make a difference in this community, to help people out, to build this whole thing, and fought against the forces that were trying to tear him down and stop him, that he wonders if it's all worth it, and he comes to this big crisis point. That is the central storyline that stays the same. How we tell it is very different, because the film, of course, does things that you can only do with a movie. It does fast cuts, and it does scene changes really quickly, and it does close-ups, you know, and then it pulls back, and it does a big panorama. You can't do that in an opera. So the way we tell it is we had to find a way for the angel to visit George and get to know his life without doing a bunch of flashbacks or different camera shots and things. So Jean came up with the idea of a series of doorways, in a sense that, in a place that's like an attic where heaven and earth meet. And all of these different doors are different avenues to different days and events in George Bailey's life. And by going through this door or that door, we learn another detail of George's life. When he was a child, when he met Mary Bailey, when they were at the high school dance and the pool opened up and they all fell in. All these different wonderful events in his life that led him to be the person that he is. So the way we do it in the story is we start in the heavens with our angel is Clara rather than Clarence, a soprano, because it's an opera. And Clara is hearing things that the other angels can't hear for some reason. She's hearing all these prayers for this man named George Bailey.
All right, let's listen to Clara's aria about hearing all these prayers.
Mustn't fail, mustn't fall, so I'm nowhere at all. Waiting for the day I get my wings and fly away. My eyes are dazzled by the stars, my ears are enchanted by the flutter of Christmas Eve, I hear prayers for this man. Let me see him, maybe this time I could be your eyes, ears, and hands. Let me try, let me see if there is coming to me. As I wait here for the day, I get my wings.
Here is a little bit of kind of a fun scene with clever lyrics by Gene Shear. George dreams of traveling and seeing the world, getting out of Bedford Falls. He never actually does, if you know the story, because of ultimate financial troubles, family troubles, the death of his father, sacrificing his career so that his brother can go to college and so forth. But here they are dreaming about this idea.
In Bedford Falls, it's the city of lights. What is the Seine but a dirty little creek? Oh, is the river magnifique. Goodbye, Bedford Falls. Your mystery and enchantment have set the bar so high. Goodbye, Bedford Falls.
How will you ever leave us?
I don't know, but I'll try.
Now we must strive without a desk to sit at a stay from 9 to 5. Red and green and heaven with each piazza. All you see is lots of beauties looking for a date. What can I do? Harvest your fate. Goodbye, Bedford Falls. I space is soaring. Two stories high. Goodbye, Bedford Falls.
So this is where Clara, the angel, discovers she's invisible to everyone at this point, but she discovers that when she takes her hat off, she stops time, which turns out to be very useful. Here is a scene of the high school dance. You saw the little bit in the clip. Probably the gym is built over a swimming pool, although evidently Frank Capra knew of exactly such a gym, and it opens up and they all fall in, and George and Mary dry out, and he sings to her about his dreams and about fulfilling hers as well.
And I'm gonna see the world. I don't have a choice. It's beyond what I want, what I dream. This
adventurer, an explorer, an inventor. And I'm going to invent a life bigger than anything Bedford Falls has ever seen. I'm not getting out. I'm gonna bust out. When I look back on my life, what I'm gonna say is day after day I was surprised, I was amazed.
All right. And here's our movie conclusion, just to remind you. The conniving banker, Mr. Potter, together with the bumbling of George's befuddled Uncle Billy, have caused George's building and loan company to be missing $8,000 in depositors' cash, putting him at risk of financial failure, not to mention jail. Hence his suicidal thoughts on Christmas Eve. The angel Clarence has shown him what life would have been like without him, and how many lives he has blessed just by being who he was, making him want to come back to life and be with his family. To his surprise, all the townspeople he had helped over the years have gladly chipped in to help him out. Even Mary's old boyfriend, the now wealthy Sam Wainwright, comes to the rescue, and his young brother offers a toast. Here's the ending of the film.
Hi, dear Ernie, a toast to my big brother George, the richest man in town. That's a Christmas present from a very dear friend of mine.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
That's right. That's right. Attaboy, Clarence.
So, Clarence's message is that no one is a failure who has friends, and that's exactly how the opera ends. Clara gets her wings, and off she goes, and here's the end of the opera. All right, a quick little survey of Christmassy operas, and I hope it's been fun to explore them all. There are lots more, of course. I'm sure you could think of some yourselves, but I don't want to take too much more time. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and thanks for being here. If you have any questions, I'll try to answer them. If there's a question or two, you want to throw it out there, just yell it out, and I'll see if I can answer it. If not, you can stop by afterwards and talk to me privately if you like. Happy holidays.